It's like really focusing first on who we are and why we do what we do, and how that guides the what and the how of what we do. So I'm very clear whenever I talk about Psychology Specialist of Maine and our organization, I always start with why. And I think the idea of starting with why is really honoring a purpose-driven, mission-driven mindset. And if you're lucky enough to be one of those people where your career aligns with who you are and what you're passionate about, then essentially your work feels like an extension of yourself. And I really like to think about the work that we do as purpose-driven. Why it's happening now is we just celebrated 5-year anniversary of Psychology Specialist of Maine. We were officially established in October 2016, but by the end of 2021, we finished 5 calendar years. So it feels like a nice opportunity to pause and be reflective and think about our values and where we are and potentially where we're going. I think up to this point, I've had a mindset that allowed me to think about starting something and see what unfolds. Was probably came from my yoga training of just like being present and being open to opportunities, rather than being like specifically goal driven or metric driven or having aspirations to have certain number of therapists or clients. But what's really kept me focused is staying very true to the core values and sense of purpose that was established from the very beginning. I'm going to start talking about our logo, because when I designed the logo, I wanted it to be a butterfly. So butterfly for me, for many people, represents growth and transformation. And actually, when I think about our why, the sense of purpose, I'm usually thinking about the psychologists at Psychology Specialists of Maine and being very mindful that if that's my focus, then it's also going to naturally extend to the clients with whom we work. So I'm not just talking about our services and the who of who we're helping, but also the who of who we are. So I think about growth and change from the perspective of each individual psychologist at Psychology Specialists of Maine. And we had sort of this phrase we use is we do hard things together. And I think that very much a sense of belonging, connection is central to the work that we do and our organization. So the butterfly actually has the optical illusion of 2 faces, which represents our core belief and our value around belonging and connectedness. And if we go back to attachment theory, we know that a secure base is supported by relationships, and that we seek that kind of connection in order to feel safe and secure. And that's not just in our intimate relationships, it's very important in our work life. And that employees, staff members across organizations will often talk about psychological safety as being of primary importance to their ability to engage in their work. So you can think about, and I'll talk more about this, but sort of the applications of attachment theory to workplace culture and how important it is to have a sense of safety and security where you work. But that sort of trauma-informed, attachment-focused, feminist orientation, whatever you want to call it, is also central to the work that we do and how we show up for our clients. And we, of course, know that that is critical and necessary in order for good therapeutic change. So we're looking for transformation and growth with our clients, but also for ourselves. And that kind of belief in every individual's infinite potential for growth and change. And that I think I've always been oriented toward focusing on people's assets and strengths, and also honoring that we all have strengths, looking at each individual on our team as making really substantial and impactful contributions, but also looking at our clients in a depathologizing way in terms of honoring and focusing on their own strengths and assets and helping individuals identify that within themselves. We started in 2016, and I was talking to just the first two people that joined Psychology Specialists of Maine. We weren't anything. We weren't anything but a set of values. We weren't anything but our vision. We weren't anything but our mission. And what was really exciting about that is I think inherently, I was humbled that people were trusting me. And now I think what happens is people are trusting Psychology Specialists of Maine, the organization, our group. We really are in line with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, this is a great way to use psychology and our own theory to support why we do the things we do, in this kind of bottom up way of thinking about how important it is to have safety in the workplace, honoring that we are all humans first, and we have the same needs as our clients. Psychological needs are essential. A lot of I'm not an IO psychologist, but I'm familiar with some of the research that does look at the critical importance of psychological safety in the workplace. And I mean, I think actually Google has done a lot of research that over and over and over just shows that you have to have psychological safety. And of course, their goal is higher engagement among their employees. And I think I look at it more from a humanistic perspective, right? If we have belief in unlimited, infinite potential, we can't even begin to sort of actualize that until we have these foundational needs met, right? Belonging and love, esteem needs. And then we have the ability to self-actualize, right? And that's what we mean when we say believing in the infinite potential, that we believe that every individual has the potential to thrive and live their best life, be their best self. But we also honor that in order to get there, there has to be psychological safety and opportunities to build esteem. So again, we as psychologists, this is what we need in order to really transmit and inspire and encourage that in the clients with whom we work. Our mission is to learn, grow, lead, and inspire others to believe in themselves and live to their fullest potential. And then vision, we serve to foster the infinite potential and greatness in every team member and client. We aim to promote mental health, social justice, and well-being by emphasizing individual strengths, empowerment, anti-racism, and the centrality of relationships. So again, we're talking about really fostering infinite potential, inspiring greatness in every team member and client, but it's coming back to equity, social justice, centrality of relationships. This is the way we present ourselves, that it is on our website, that anyone who comes and is spending some time looking at who we are should be able to see pretty clearly what our values are, what our mission is, what our vision. This is very intentional for a couple of reasons. One is, if there are psychologists out there that are curious about our organization, then I want to be very clear about what our values are, because people engage with you not because of what you do, but because of why you do it. That the people at Psychology Specialists of Maine, the psychologists, share the same values. They're here because of why we do what we do. You're here because of why we do what we do. You can do what you do at Psychology Specialists of Maine in a lot of different places. There are a lot of groups, there's private practice, there's different organizations. So I really aspire to be a group who shares a common vision, mission, and values. And I wanted to share with you that this year we interviewed several postdoctoral residents. And Kate will actually present in April to talk a little bit more broadly about the postdoctoral program that we've developed over the past few years. But residents were doing their homework. They were on our website. They were reading the materials that Kate had developed about who we are. And I was like really humbled to hear from them why they wanted to train with us in our office. And I wanted to read you a couple of quotes from emails that came our way. One person said, PSM is my top ranked site, both in terms of professional and personal goals. The opportunity for specialty clinic training And the feminist, relational, culture, values of the clinic really resonate with me and would support my goal of being an LGBTQ plus affirmative therapist in my home state. So I was like, wow, this person gets us. And that's what I was receiving on the interviews as well. This one is fun. The practice that you've put together, its people, its values, its location, and even the decor feels like miracle grow for the soul. I'm hopeful that I will get to play a little part in PSM's story and that it will play a big part in mine. So we're getting these messages that are really speaking to the attraction to the values that we possess. And I think that what's happened over the past 5 years, because I do very little to recruit psychologists, and I think that we attract the people who are really aligned with why we do what we do. And it's made us an incredibly strong team. And I think what gets reflected back to us is that our brand is associated with excellence, leadership, education, caring, and quality. There's a sense of being highly respected by other helping professionals, other medical professionals who refer to us, and many of whom seek out our services because of the reputation that we've established. And that is the result of everyone who's part of PSM. If you think about, a lot of organizations are designed around processes, production, metrics. You know, they're always thinking about the what and the how and the outcomes. But attachment theory would suggest that when you actually focus more on the human need for safety and security, right? I mean, that secure attachment comes from, you know, am I safe and am I okay? So of course, in any work environment and in any relationship, we want feedback. We want to know that we're okay. Whether it's your romantic relationship, and today being Valentine's Day, you know, there's never too much of being told that, you know, yeah, you're enough, you're great, like, I appreciate you. And the same goes true in the workplace. What we give, especially as helping professionals, is often unseen. So just being seen becomes so important. And that's the job of all of us, to really look out for each other, I think, and be, you know, so many of you have come to me to say, wow, this person really helped me. I felt mentored. I felt supported. Yeah, tell each other that, you know, that creates the kind of safety and security that we just long for, and we seek out in our workplace. I think there's more, there's a higher level of consciousness about that now. And I think the pandemic has brought on a lot of reflection among organizations and workplaces to look at mental health in the workplace. And so I think we will see more people talking about the importance of psychological safety and security, which is great and so important. But we know that, you know, even from a workplace culture standpoint, you know, people do their best work in an environment in which they feel safe and secure. And for us as a group of psychologists, that's critically important. And again, it's not about metrics, it's about being available. We are the tool that we use in our work with clients. So feeling supported and that you are at your best is really important, because you will do your best work from that place. And also, I think the sense of connectedness, right? That we're not just doing our work in isolation, we're doing it for ourselves, our clients, and for each other. And that has a huge and exponential impact on how we orient ourselves as psychologists. We have a feminist work culture. And I just want to be clear about what I mean when I say that. Because if our value is we have unlimited potential, right? And that it's about thriving in our lives, it goes beyond the workplace. You know, I mean, being a successful psychologist, my first question is, are you satisfied? Are you fulfilled? Is this work gratifying? Are there things you want to be doing that you're not doing, right? That's how we would define success. And so having autonomy and scheduling around what other things are important in your life is one way in which we honor that. So whenever we hire or onboard another psychologist, I really have to work with them to say, no, I want to know what's your ideal work day, based on what other things you have in your life. Like, let's talk about that, because, we don't necessarily come from the place of when do we think clients want to meet. It's what's best for you, because then you're going to be at your best and do your best work. Shared leadership. I love Brene Brown. I wrote down a definition of what is a leader. And I thought, yeah, that really speaks to me. So a leader is anyone who holds themselves responsible for finding potential in people and processes and helping to develop that potential. Again, creating safety and security, this is probably the most foundational need. And that, if I think about that from an organizational perspective, am I safe? Is this trauma informed? Are we transparent as we can be about what's happening? Are we communicative? Do you feel like you could say, I really understand, where I work and where we're going and what's important there? That creates a sense of safety, that what the values are of your workplace. There's no sense of like not really understanding, or, feeling like something could come at you that's very surprising and not aligned with what's important to you. And again, feedback, right? That you feel like you're getting that feedback that tells you you're valued, you're appreciated, that you're doing a great job, and that you have opportunities for growth and transformation as well. Building community and relationship. We have our consultation group. We have developed a new Self of the Therapist consultation group. We have leadership team meetings. We have DBT consultation. We try to build an environment where all of these things are available, and yet none of those things are required. But it's really important that people have the flexibility and autonomy to create their own schedule, and can kind of anticipate what their annual income is, because it's not a salary. And there are some people who choose to work more because they have financial needs that require that. And that's why the flexibility is built in. The learning and growth is very core to who we are as an organization. From there to having done 16 half-day, mostly in-person trainings, and obviously in 2020, after our last in-person training, March 2020, we've switched to a webinar format. But I think that was a way to build community to the larger group of licensed mental health professionals in Maine, because we are a very isolated group of mental health professionals, many of whom are in private practice. So we were working on sort of building community relationships, referral connections, and also having an opportunity to continually learn. So one of the things that's great about being a psychologist, it's always just like blows me away to see one of my colleagues at PSM present and feel just so incredibly proud to be a colleague. And professional growth, trying to sort of meet those needs too, to just have contact with one another, whether it's the meetups, which is tricky right now because it's a pandemic, but it's always so nice to be able to have that personal connection with your colleagues. The supervision, the support, the mentorship, part of creating a postdoctoral residency was a way to sort of create the work culture that we desired, to have an environment that was focused on growth and learning. And when postdocs come in and they bring their incredible energy and their enthusiasm, it like reawakens parts of us that, remind us why we're doing this work. And so such an appreciation for what the postdocs bring to our office, and the opportunity to supervise and train, and just stay really engaged and connected with the work that we do. Where we shine. So this is what my view of where I think we shine. It's hard to find groups like us out there. So how are we different? Number one, it's who we are. We're psychologists. We have evidence-based adult psychotherapy. There's 25 of us. And I describe us as strong generalists with specializations across clinical disorders and treatment approaches. Our second, supervision and training. We developed the postdoctoral residency. The first resident was 2018, 2019. And then over time, we now have 3 specialty tracks. So when postdocs apply to our program, they understand that they're going to get strong generalist training, and they're also going to get specialty training. One primary area, and there could be like a major and a minor. So EFT, DBT, and ADHD are the specialty tracks that we've developed. The third strength is education. Our clinical training seminars and webinars are really well attended. And I've always felt that they were like very good in quality. And we've gotten really positive feedback from all of our clinical training seminars and webinars. And so people are looking to us for this, and we will continue to do what we do and find ways to make it better, expand on them. We added the monthly lunch and learn trainings, the clinical and self-help therapist consultation group. And then we added some online courses, but now we're kind of just totally separating the revenue from any of our educational seminars, and it goes back into a pool to support her position and also to support any external CEU funds for our staff. And then finally, we've become a very strong site for DBT skills groups, and that's also evolved. All right, I wanted to present some of the data of our growth and development over time. And this is looking at 2017 as a full calendar year through 2021 full calendar year. So what you're looking at here is just number of intakes that were completed within that calendar year. And then you're looking next to that is number of individual sessions. So that would be the 90834, 90837 primarily numbers. And let me just move my thing here. What was really interesting about this for me is looking at the individual sessions. If we started with 2009 sessions completed in 2017, if you multiply that by 1.6, so a 60% increase, you get basically 3,264. If you multiply that by 1.6, 60% increase, you get basically 5,220. If you multiply that by 1.6, you get 8,106, basically. And if you multiply that by 1.6, okay, so 60%, that was not on purpose. That's just a mathematical phenomenon. And it's very interesting to note that every year since we were established, we have grown by 60% just based on the individual sessions metric. And I feel like it does take time for anything you start to get out into the world, get recognized, get known. And something began happening around 2020. I felt like where we were kind of becoming an attractor of psychologists who shared our values. And in a really profound way, it's feeling like it's happening even more right now. And generally, once one group starts, it starts like growing exponentially. So once we are in a place where it's comfortable to have interpersonal support groups, I think we'll see that grow like the DBT groups grew. Here are numbers that represent the blue is the number of staff psychologists. Those are staff psychologists are employees. And so we consider that kind of our also core faculty for our APIC residency. Affiliates actually emerged really as a phenomenon out of the 2020 and the pandemic. The idea was let's just build a telepsychology affiliate team of like permanent telepsychology, which is definitely a thing. It's not going away. There'll always be a demand. And so that's part of how our numbers increased. But if you look at the metric here, 2021, we had 10 affiliates and 12 staff psychologists and 2 postdoctoral residents. So this is just helping us look at the 1, 5, 10-year growth possibility. It's not really a plan because I never plan numbers. They kind of just are looking at trends. Future directions. I've been a big proponent of let's keep doing what we do and just do it better. Part of that fed into having a leadership team that was going to really take on enhancing, growing, developing what we already do well.